Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's load this up. Oh, I always forget to connect my iPad to my computer. So, I hope everybody's doing well. It's Wednesday. Technically only one more day for math lessons for the week after today. I hope everybody's doing well. It's a little bit colder out than I would like, but hey, what's going on, Ella? Oh, you know what I think I forgot to do? If she's in here, I don't know if you're in here, Shannon. Shannon, if you're in here, let me know and I'll send you the lesson. I'm not sure if you are. If you're not, I'll just send it to you afterwards so you can watch it on your own time. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing... Oh, yeah, you are here. Go figure. All right, let me disconnect for a second. So we're going to be going into lesson number 6. And in lesson number 6, we are going to be doing graphs of sine and cosine. All right, so I just sent that to you. Oh, you can download it, Shannon. I didn't know that your iTunes has been fixed. Sweet. All right, well, I just sent it to you too. Yeah, so as far as today goes, we're just going to do some graphs. I'm going to do one sine and one cosine. Oh, I didn't realize I did that. In number 2, it's going to say cosine, not sine. I'll fix it when we get there. So we're going to do one sine, we're going to do one cosine. We'll call it quits for today. Tomorrow we'll go into how graphs change when there's leading coefficients. So again, that will be tomorrow's lesson. So as far as the homework goes for this, a lot of you guys probably will not be able to do the homework quite yet. You'll have to wait till tomorrow's lesson. Some of you guys may be okay with it, and you'll just be able to jump right through because you'll feel comfortable with the little tips and tricks that I'm going to show you guys with the calculator today. So as you guys are following along with me, I suggest having your calculator up on your screen like I do, because I'm going to be showing you little keystrokes that we have to hit, where we have to go to get to certain things, and so on. So what I did is I reset my calculator. I did the second plus. I hit reset, and then I hit all memory, and then I just hit OK. So I reset it completely, so I know I'm going to be on the same page as everyone. So if you want to reset it too and follow along, you're more than welcome to. If you think your calculator is already fine, don't worry about it and just go along with what I do. So these are trig functions. You guys have never graphed a trig function before. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the rotation of a graph for sine or cosine. So it's taking the unit circle. Unit circle obviously goes around and around and around. What we're going to do is we're going to stretch it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to create something that's called a wave. The best way to explain it is if you guys were to watch like a doctor TV show and they have them hooked up to the scanner and you see the little heart rate monitor and it beeps and it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. If it weren't for sine and cosine curves, that heartbeat monitor wouldn't even exist. So that's kind of what's important about this right now. A lot of you guys will be like, well, how does that pertain to me? I'm not going to become a doctor. Well, yeah, this is one of those lessons where it probably won't pertain to you in real life. But it gives you guys a sense of where it comes from and where you get an idea from it. So I'm just going to swipe the calculator off just so I can read up top. So it says the sine and cosine functions can be graphed considering their values at the quadrantal angles. So I'm going to highlight that because we've actually have done quadrantal angles. I just haven't called them that before. So I'll draw a little picture of that in a second. It normally works in integer multiples starting with 90 degrees or pi over 2 radians. So due to considerations from physics and upper level math, most trig graphing is going to be done with radians. So a lot of the stuff we're going to be focusing on for the next week or so is all going to be radians. We're not going to really be doing much with degrees anymore. In the table that I put down for you guys, I did both degrees and radians. So like this top part right here is degrees. But the theta we're going to be focusing on is going to be all in radians, which is what you're seeing. Negative 2 pi, negative 3 pi over 2. All of those are going to be radians. And I'll put that inside just so you guys are aware. But I want to go up and talk about this quadrantal angle so you guys know what that actually means. We have already done it before. I'm just going to redraw it so you guys are more familiarized with what the vocabulary is. So quadrantal angles are the angles that we did in the last couple of units that fall on the x and y axis. So when we were doing unit circle, there were times that we had a coordinate fall on the quadrants. And I wrote all these angles down before. Like the first angle is at 0 degrees. The second angle up top is at 90 degrees, 180, 270. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, we're going to be back at 360. Those are all known as the quadrantal angles because they're not necessarily in the quadrant, it's on the lines. When we put those coordinates down, I told you, or I'm sorry, when we put those points down, I told you guys we had to represent it as a coordinate. So when we did the coordinate, you guys just had to tell me what the x and y values were for every single one. And again, I think it was lesson 2 we did this in. When we talked about the unit circle, it was the front page of lesson 2. So since we are always working with a unit circle, that means that each one of those lines to the dot is always going to be one value. So if I'm going to go over to this first dot, this is just saying I went over 1, and then I didn't move up or down. So this is just going to be 1, 0. The top one, that 90 degrees, I did not move left or right to get up to this dot. So it's going to be 0, and I went up 1. On the 180, I went left 180, so I'm going left 1, which would be negative 1. And then I did not go up and down, so it's 0. And then the bottom one, I did not go left or right, so it's 0, but I went down 1 to get to that coordinate. So again, all of these are linked together. So if you memorize them, awesome. If you don't, that's okay, because I'm going to show you guys how you can do it with a calculator. And again, that's all in degrees. So what I'm going to show you guys today is how to do it with radians. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to zoom more in on the table right now because I'm going to do this with the calculator with you guys. So I'm going to pull out the calculator. There's a few things that we got to clean up on the calculator first. So if you just reset the calculator like me, there's going to be a few things that are off. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the table button, and you guys will see, and it's different on every single calculator. I am glad you are here, Tabitha. So it's different on every single calculator. Like my calculator is saying that I'm starting at negative 144.9. And this is the one thing that I hate about these iPad calculators, because they're never going to be precise unless you fix it. You guys could be starting at negative 1,000 for all I know. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix it. In order to fix it, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the second button first, and then we're going to hit table. And when you guys do that, you're going to notice, and this could be different on yours, my table says that I'm starting at 0.2. You guys could be at a different number. We're going to fix this. I want to start at 0. So I'm just going to change that to 0 right now. And the triangle table is telling you how much you're counting up by. So right now, my calculator is counting up by 0.1. I don't want it to count up by 0.1. I want it to count up by 1. So I'm going to change that to a 1. Now when I go back to table, you guys should see that I have 0 on there, even though it didn't really start at 0, because again, I hate this calculator. So now I have 0 at the top, and now it's counting up by ones. We don't have any answers yet because we didn't type anything into y equals yet. So now that we fixed that little thing, now I'm going to hit y equals, and I'm going to type in our first function. So the first function that we're going to be focusing on is f of x is equal to sine x. So I'm just going to type sine x right into the calculator. Sine is right underneath the apps button. And I hope everybody is seeing x next to alpha. Some of you guys might be seeing a different letter there. If you are seeing a different letter, reset your calculator and it should fix it. But now that I have sine x in there, now I'm going to check my table. Oh, actually, you know what? There's one thing I forgot to do. I told you guys that we're going to be graphing in radians. So right now, I don't know if this calculator is in radian mode or if it's in degree mode. So like we did the other day, I should be clicking on mode first and making sure that under operation modes, radians is highlighted. And it looks like if you reset your calculator, it automatically stays on radians, so we should be okay. If you are somebody that was in degree mode, make sure you switch it. It's got to be in radians when we do this today. So now that I'm in radians, it looks like all my answers were okay in the table. However, if you look at these radian answers we have, the first one says negative 2 pi. Well, we just said that we're counting up by ones. So negative 2 pi, if I start going into the negatives, I'm not going to see negative 2 pi on here. So there's a trick where you can find all of these answers with your table. I don't believe anybody has shown this to you guys in the past. This is a nice trick that's done in pre-calculus and calculus. So if you take future math courses, you will see this trick again. But what you can do is I'm going to go back into that table set. And I'm going to hit second table set again, where it comes up with the number that we're starting with and what we're counting up by. And underneath, you're going to see something that says auto and ask. So you guys have always had your calculators, even in class, it's always been set to auto. And that means it's going to list all the numbers in the table automatically for you. What I want you guys to do is change it to ask. Because if you change it to ask, I'm going to show you a trick. So if you change it to ask, I then want you to click on table. And if you click on table, you're going to see everything is blank. However, it says ask x. The x values are everything that we have here with the radians. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type into my calculator that first x value of negative 2 pi. So I'm going to type in negative 2 pi. And you guys should be seeing it's coming in towards the bottom screen of the calculator. And I'm going to press enter. What the calculator just did, on the left side here, it says negative 6.2831853. That is negative 2 pi. Your calculator solved it. What we care about is the answer that popped up in the y value. And the answer that's popping up right now is 0. So we just found the first answer using this thing called the ask function. Now I'm just going to repeat the steps. So now I'm going to do the next one. So I got to go back over to ask x. And the next one's negative 3 pi over 2. I'm not sure if it's going to let us type it in as a fraction. Yeah, it's not going to let us type it in as a fraction. So we're just going to use the division sign. So I'm going to do it again, Sierra. I'll do it again. So as long as you guys are in this screen where it says ask x, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in the next x value or the next theta value that's here. So it's negative 3 pi over 2. I don't know where you're talking about, Sierra. I can't really help until I see it. So if you have ask x at the top and y1 at the top, you should be okay. That's all I can say right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the next one by just doing negative 3 pi, and I'm going to divide it by 2. So when we're in this mode, your calculator won't allow you to type in fractions, but you can type it in with the division sign and you'll be okay. So I have negative 3 pi over 2, and now I'm just going to press enter, and once again, you'll see that it converts it into a decimal for you. And then, it's probably because you were clicked on the Y side. That could be Y Sierra. You were just clicked on the right side. Notice I clicked on 1, and now at the bottom it says Y1 equals 1. So now we have the answer for the second one. And now I'm just going to keep doing this. So now I have to click back on the X side. So now it says X equals 0. I got to type in the new answer, which is negative pi. I press enter, and I'm getting a crazy decimal right here. And this will happen sometimes. And this is why I wanted to walk you guys through it. That says negative 1.225. And I know it's hard to read on mine, but it says e to the negative 16. E means scientific notation. So what your calculator is doing is it's so precise that it's telling you the exact decimal. This is telling you that you're going to move the decimal to the left 16 times. So it's going to be 0.000000000, and it's going to keep going. So if you ever see something with an E next to it, it's really just going to be 0. Okay, so that negative 1.225 e to the negative 16 is really 0. Ella, what you have to do is hit second table again. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, it says auto and ask. So just make sure that you are on the ask part. Now when you go back into table, you should see something similar to what I have, except I already have numbers typed in. You just haven't typed anything in yet. So I'm just going to keep going. Next one's going to be negative pi over 2. Just remember, you guys can't type in fractions. You just have to type it in with the division sign. I type that in and I get negative 1. Did you switch yours to radian mode, Alina? If you're in degree mode, you'll be getting different answers than me. So make sure you go into mode and then you have radian selected. Because if you don't have that radian, you'll definitely have different answers than me. I'm now going to type in 0 and press enter, and the answer comes out to be 0. And if you're looking at the answers that I have, they should be kind of creating a pattern. They're still coming out different. Can you type in the answer that you got for, let's say, negative 2 pi for me, Alina? And I'm just going to keep continuing on with the numbers that I have here. So the next one I have is pi over 2. And I'm getting 1. And I hope you guys, like I said, are going to see kind of like a pattern that's going on here. So I have 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. If I continue this pattern after 1, it's going to be 0. And then if you notice, it went 0, positive 1, 0, negative 1. 0, positive 1, 0. Next will be negative 1. And then 0 again. So that's the answer you got. So you typed in, so I can type it in again. If I type in negative 2 pi, I'm still getting 0. Are you sure you're not in degree mode when you type that in? You got what? Negative 0.08. Let me clear everything out here. Auto table. Let me switch this back to ask and then I'll check for you right now. Oh, it's not going to. The only other thing that I can think of for you I'm not 100% sure, Alina. Let's see if it happens again when we go to do the cosine one underneath. And if it's still like that, I'll probably try to go into a Zoom with you to see if I could try to fix the calculator with you. Okay? All right. So now that I have, go away, calculator. Now that I have all those answers, if you're not getting those answers in, at least write down what I have, and then shoot me an email or hit me up on Zoom, and then I'll walk you guys through it like I just said I would do with Lena. Because, like I said, these iPad calculators can be very faulty at times. So sometimes they will work out nice for us. Sometimes they'll do what Alina's doing and it's giving her a crazy answer that I don't even know how she's getting that. So it could be just some kind of error on the calculator. I wish we were in the classroom because the handheld calculators work so much better. So what I'm going to do is I already know all my X's and Y's now. The X's were all the ones with pi's in it, and the Y's were all the signs that we just got our answers from. So I'm just going to plot all those points. So I'm going to go to negative 2 pi, and it's at 0. So I'm just going to put a dot right there. So we're graphing just like we would regular coordinates. It's just they're not nice numbers now. They just have pi's in them. And it's because we're graphing in radians. The next one's going to be negative 3 pi over 2. And then I'm going to go up to positive 1. Then I have negative pi 0. And then it's going to go back down to negative 1. Back up to 0. And what you guys should see is this graph, this sine function, is actually creating what we call a wave. Now, when you go to connect these dots, the reason why I haven't connected them yet is because they're not going to be straight lines when you connect them. They're going to be rounded edges. So as I'm drawing this, I'm going to reach that top point. It's going to round off and come back down. And then it's going to round off and go back up. Round off, come back down. Oh, I missed the point. And then it's going to round back up top. Don't zigzag them and make them look like V's because they are not going to be straight lines when you do a wave function. Okay? So what you guys may see is something, like I said, a heartbeat monitor. When you do a heartbeat monitor, those are V-shaped because your heart beats so quickly that it jumps up and down really fast. Another thing, I don't know if anybody in here has ever tried making their own music. It works very similar to that. When you do sound waves, that's one big thing. You guys wouldn't even really have music today, or I shouldn't say MP3s or music that you guys can listen to on your computers. You wouldn't have that today if it weren't for these sine and cosine functions. So sine and cosine play a very, very important part in everyday life. Again, you guys have technology that can do it for you, so you don't really need to understand why it's needed. But it's kind of cool that these are what's created everything we kind of do in society today. But this is a sine function. So one thing I want to point out, I'm going to write it off to the side. Sine functions start at 0. And what I mean by that is if I go to the center of this graph towards the origin, notice that my coordinate is at 0, 0. So I just wanted to write that little note down. So sine function starts at 0. So I'm going to repeat all the same steps, except I'm going to change one thing. This time, we're going to do cosine. So I made a mistake. This should not say sine x right here. You could see that I switched it down here in the table. I changed it to cosine. but for whatever reason, I still wrote sine again here. So I'm just going to rewrite that so it says cos. And now I'm going to do all the same steps again. And because some of you guys may have been having trouble with the calculator, I'm going to start from scratch and reset, and I'm going to follow all those same steps. If you didn't have issues with the calculator, you guys can go right ahead and start typing in cosine theta into y equals, and then you can go to the ask function and start typing everything in to find your answers. So I'm going to start from scratch. I'm resetting. So I'm going to go to second table. I want to start at 0. I want it to count up by ones. And then I'm going to make sure I click the ask button right now. After I click that, I'm going to go into mode. And I'm going to make sure that I'm in radian mode, which it looks like I am already in radian mode, so that's okay. And then I'm going to go to y equals. And this time we're going to be doing cos x. So I'm typing in the cosine x, and then I'm closing the parenthesis. And now I'm going to go to the table, and because I reset, everything is blank. If you guys didn't reset, you may still be seeing answers in there from earlier. So I'm just going to type in all those same numbers again. I'm going to find the answers for all these cosines, and I'm going to write them in. And again, you're going to see a pattern as you guys do this. So the first thing I'm going to type in is negative 2 pi. Press enter, and it says the answer is 1. I'm then going to type in negative 3 pi divided by 2. And it looks like I'm getting that crazy answer with the e in it again. If you ever get a crazy answer with the e in it, it's just going to be 0. What do you mean you did all those wrong, Sierra? Like you already did all the answers and you think you got them wrong? Or the steps that I just did in the calculator? So it'll be negative pi, which is negative 1. Alina, let me know if you just followed the process of resetting the calculator again with me. See if the answers are coming out to be correct for you now. Negative pi over 2. Again, I'm getting that crazy number with scientific notation. When you get that crazy scientific notation, that just means your answer is 0. If we were doing them on the handheld calculators at school, it would not show a crazy answer like that. It would just say it's 0. Sierra, it could have been something like maybe you got put into degree mode like I was trying to say with Alina, or like I said, it could be an error that's going on with the calculator right now. I'll put in 0, and the answer comes out to be 1. And I'm just going to kind of stop right there because the pattern that we're going to see for cosine is going to be very, very similar to what we did with sine. So if you guys notice, we went positive 1, 0, negative 1, back up to 0, back up to positive 1, and this is a wave function. So it's going to keep going up and down, up and down. So the next one is going to be 0 because it's going to start working its way back down until we get to negative 1. And then it's going to work its way back up to positive 1. So we're getting all the same numbers, but you guys are going to notice that those numbers don't match up with the same answers we had for sine because we're doing a different trig function. So again, if your calculator's giving you different answers, for now, just write down what we have. All the answers after that last 0, I got negative 1. I'm not 100% sure what happened. Sierra, if you stop by Zoom tomorrow, I'll take a look at it and I'll see if I can try to figure it out. But anyways, if I graph all these numbers on here, again, it's going to be just like we did before. So I'm at negative 2 pi, and it goes up to 1. I'm going to have negative 3 pi over 2, 0, negative pi, negative 1. And you're going to notice it's going down and then back up, then back down, then back up. And again, just make sure this is a wave. So they can't be straight lines. So I'm going to try to like curl it down and then back up. This is a cosine function. Okay, so that's good, Alina. So at least you'll be okay. I didn't know you had a calculator at home. Yeah, my recommendation is if you guys do have a handheld calculator like we do at the school, use that one over the iPad. Um, Unfortunately, this is not a lesson I can skip over. If this was something I could skip over, I would, but we need to get through all the trig because whether you guys go into Math 12 next year or pre-calculus, this is something that we will be getting into. The only other thing that we got to write down off to the side is I want you guys to notice where cosine starts. If you look at the beginning, cosine starts at 1. I don't know why I wrote cosec, but whatever. Cosine starts at 1. And there's some tricks to tell like when it's a cosine graph versus when it's a sine graph. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow when we get into it. But these graphs are just going to repeat over and over and over and over. So if you look at the negative side, we have this curve on the negative side. When we get to the positive side, it's exactly the same. It's just repeated. So if I kept continuing on this graph, it's just going to keep repeating that little shape over and over. The same thing happened up here with sine. If I look at the negative side, it created this curve. When I look at the positive side, it's the same exact curve. It's just going to be on repeat. Your answers will just keep repeating over and over and over. Okay? So I'm ending it on that. That puts us just over a half hour. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about some like little tips and tricks on how you can notice it's sine or cosine. On the back, we're going to talk about what happens when there's a leading coefficient. Some of you guys are already going to know what that means. And as far as the homework goes, did I already download it? I did. The front page is going to be just doing some more practice with the graphs. So if you guys feel comfortable going on the calculator, typing these in, you may do so because the whole front page is kind of like what we just did. It's just using more than one function. So each one of these graphs should have 3 different functions on it. And then when you get to the back page, we didn't really do anything as far as the back goes yet. So you can try it if you think you got it, but odds are you're not going to know how to do 3, 4, or 5 right now. Okay? But if you felt comfortable using the calculator, give number 1 and 2 a try. This homework isn't going to be due until Monday next week, so if you don't feel comfortable, just wait till tomorrow and I'll go over those. Okay? So that is all I got. My Math 12 lesson has been canceled for today because they're kind of doing like this test review thing that's going on. So if you guys are having trouble with the calculators on the iPad and you want to try to fix it today, just shoot me an email and I can work with you. If you just want to wait till tomorrow, we can wait till tomorrow. All right. But that's all I got. I didn't even check to see who was all here today. We had a handful here today. But, all right, well, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. As I'm looking, Maggie, I sent you an email. I want to say thank you again. I wanted to mention it yesterday, but I forgot. And yeah, I think that's all. I'm trying to see who else is here if I need to ask anybody anything. I don't think I need to, though. Cool. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll catch you later.